Hello. I am new to the whole video thing and new to YouTube and everything else, and I kind of was just coming on to like post a video to kind of see if really anybody else is in the same kind of position that I am, and maybe I can give you some words of advice and then vice versa. I graduated, I'm an LPN in the state of Ohio. I've been an LPN since December of 2012. My course that I took for my LPN was a 15-month course. I started 5 weeks after the birth of my third child. I went back to work I started school on Monday, went back to work part-time on Tuesday. Luckily, I was very fortunate enough and I was able to work part-time. During my LPN course, I worked weekends, a couple days here and there. Whenever I had time off, I'd fill in. I worked as an STNA during that time, and my LPN program wasn't that bad. I don't know. I don't want to say I breezed through it. I did a pretty good job with the program. My program was a 1 month course a month. So for the first month I did psychology, and then after that was done, then I was done with psychology and so on. So month 5 is when I started the actual nursing program, and month 5 was when I actually got my first B+, and I thought it was the end of the world, because in high school I wasn't the greatest student. I graduated in 2000, so 17 years ago, and I just wasn't the greatest student. I just didn't care. And as I got older, it affected me. So, long story short, I graduated with honors, a 3.56 GPA, while having 10-year-old twins, which turned 11 throughout the course of the program, and then my little girl who was a baby and then turned 1. I did that with the help of my husband, which was great. And then I took a year off and I worked as an LPN, a little bit over a year and a half. And then I decided to go back for my RN because in the state of Ohio, we have so many great hospitals here, and they're all magnet status hospitals, and they all want RNs with BSNs and things like that. So I knew that if my plan was to get into a hospital, that I had to get my RN. So I went back to school for my RN. I didn't do a bridge program. I'm not sure why I didn't do a bridge program looking back now, but I just started from square one. So of my classmates, there was a couple nurses, there was a couple people that did odd jobs, there was some STNAs, so it was kind of a mixture of everything. I did really well the first 3 semesters, and then my 4th semester I failed one of my nursing classes, and I was devastated. I thought it was the end of the world. It was the first time I'd failed anything, really. And it actually kind of worked out into my advantage, because I had some extraordinary students that I was then paired with. They were amazing. They were grounded where I was really hyper, and we were able to talk things out, and one of them ended up becoming one of my really best friends. And so on fast forward to August of 2016, getting ready to finish up my course, everything has been sent to the Ohio Board of Nursing, doing a Kaplan review for school, everything's great. And I guess I was fortunate enough to be one of the last classes to graduate from ITT Tech, the Breckenridge School of Nursing, before they essentially closed down, went bankrupt. I didn't get a graduation. I didn't get to walk the stage. I didn't get a pinning. I didn't get any of that. The only reason I got my pin was because one of the program coordinators went in on the day that she was allowed to clean her personal items out of her desk and literally just grabbed as much stuff as she could. I kind of picture it being like Enron. She literally just swooped everything off her desk into a box and was able to get all our personal, not our personal items, but our personal medical records, things like that, so you could use for anything. She got our pins. So it was very, like, it was upsetting, like, because you worked so hard for this. Needless to say, it took a few weeks to get everything sorted out. I didn't know if I was going to be able to graduate because none of my paperwork had been sent to the Ohio Board of Nursing, which I thought it had been, but it hadn't been. Fast forward, I don't know, a couple months, I finally got my ATT and decided to take my test in December. I tested for my RN the first time December 13th. 265 questions, and 5 hours later, I failed, which again was heartbreaking because it's the second time I failed. And when I passed my LPN NCLEX, I didn't feel it was that hard. And I failed, and it was devastating. And I was like, I cried. I hadn't really told anybody I was taking the test, so not a lot of people knew. But then, judging from my demeanor and how upset I was and how snappy I was, it was awful. And I had prided myself on doing so well because I went through my 27th month course for my RN, working full-time as an LPN, night shift and day shift, again with my twins who were now 13 to 15 in the 2.5 years, and then a little girl who was 3 to 5. Baseball, band, cross country, soccer, everything that you could think of. I was at probably 94% of these activities with my kids with a book in my hand, and occasionally I had to lie when my kids said, "Mom, did you see that home run?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that home run." Even though my nose was in chapter 13, learning about mental health, I told my kid that I saw his home run because I didn't want him to be upset because he didn't understand. So when I failed, I felt like I was just a complete failure. Like, this was not an option. So I talked to some people. They said, take the holidays off. Don't worry, don't stress. So I kind of did that. And then beginning of January, I started a new job. Again, as an LPN, but job was a little closer to home. I felt there was more room for advancement there. If I was an LPN, let's just use the example for another year, I felt like I could move up. So I did, the first time I took the NCLEX for the RN, I did Kaplan. The second time I went through my NCLEX review book from Pearson, and I did Board Vitals, the website with the questions. There was 1,500 questions. I got through 900 and retested on March 29th. 265 questions, and 4.5 hours later, I failed again. So as you can imagine, I felt like I was that was it. I was just this can't be happening. I'm a smart person. I'm a good student. I'm a good nurse. This is just not an option. And so I talked to some people at work and realized that obviously in the state of Ohio, you can take your boards every 45 days. So I was I got to retest in 45 days. It's not an option. So the reason I knew I failed is because I did that Pearson View trick. I put my correct credit card information in because I said to myself, well, if I failed, then I got to repay the money anyways. And I had the money at the time, and I was like, well, I could blow it at Target on things that are great, like clothes and stuff, but I also could just pay the $200 for the test. So I put my the correct credit card information in. I hit the button, and it took my money. So I was like, I failed. I was in the bathroom at work crying. Finally came out, but like I said, after talking to a bunch of people, I was like, no, it's not an option. I didn't spend altogether between LPN and RN 4 years in school to just give up. And so I re-registered. I have not got my ATT yet for my third test, but a friend at work, who is my assistant director of nursing, did UWorld, and she raved about UWorld and how amazing it was. So I bought a 2-month subscription to UWorld, and I've just really been doing questions, and I'll do 75 questions. I don't know, every day. And then at the end of the week, I'll go through and I'll see what like subjects and what systems I need to work on. So I'll write down the subjects and then I'll write down the systems, and then I'll do 50 questions in those subjects and systems, because those are my areas of weakness. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to do questions on, say, leadership style, which I have 68% in, but I want to focus on the ones that I'm worst in first, because I got my CPR report, which is what you get after you fail. The first time out of all 8 areas, I was near passing in 6 and below passing in 2. Well, I got my CPR report for this test, and I was near passing in all 8 areas. And they say when you get 265 questions, you're essentially, that's the closest you can come to passing without actually passing. But that's not something that I wanted to hear. So I'm going to try again. And that's all I can say is just keep trying, because I know at the end of the day, like, I'm a good nurse. And if I had decided not to go back to RN school and I spent the remainder of my nursing career as an LPN, that's something I would have done, and I would have perfected my craft, and I would have been the most amazing LPN I could have been. But I felt like there was something bigger for me, and that's why I chose to go be an RN. I was raised by a single mom who worked in factories. My dad was around and helped, and he was a truck driver. So no matter, your parents always want you to do better. And this is just something that I wanted to do. And my mom always pushed me and said, you can do anything you want to do. And she was also the one, like, when I cried and told her about my test and failing, like, she let me have my feels for a couple minutes, and she let me cry, and then she was like, suck it up, buttercup. Like, that's it. Just move on. You got to move on. And then I'd look at her and be like, you just don't understand. Like, you don't understand. And she's like, what? You think I've never failed at anything? You think that I've succeeded at everything in my life? You are getting above yourself. You're thinking about it too much. You know your job. You know what you're supposed to do. Like, your goal is to become an RM. She said, you just have to do the questions. You just have to think about it. You have to spend time. My best friend gave me some advice. She said, when the kids are in school, even though it's quiet in the house, because my twins are now in 10th grade and my little girl's in kindergarten, she said, go to the library. Leave your phone at home. Unfortunately, I didn't do that today, but I'll learn. I'm going to test sometime again next month, so I got about 30 days. I'm not rushing it. I thought I felt really ready last time. I felt more ready the second time than I did the first, and I think that showed in the fact that all 8 areas I got near passing, and I didn't get any below passing. So I'm working on it. I'm doing questions, like I said, when my kids are at school. When they come home and everybody goes to bed, then I write down the rationales as to what questions I got wrong. I've been, like, using graph paper and plotting my my successes and my failures. So I'll take, like, a passing line and I'll chart, my questions, and I'm like, okay, well, this could have possibly been a passing test because all my answers were above the passing line. But I know that questions are weighted differently with select all that applies, and then I do that too. I go through 75 questions and I'm like, well, I got 21 select all that applies and only 6 right, which equals out to a 28%, and that's just not going to cut it, Nicole. So I really work on that, and until I feel like I'm ready, I'm going to wait. My job is very supportive. My DON asks me every day if I've been doing questions, and she wants to see reports and things like that. Like, they've invested in me, and I plan to repay them. So I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. I am sitting at my dining room table with a computer. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I gotta go into work for a few hours, but I'm drinking my Pepsi, and I had a strawberry shortcake at 10 a.m. because I can. I'm sitting in my bathrobe here. So you just gotta do what you gotta do. So I hope to keep posting some videos. I watch tons of videos on YouTube about other people, and it gives me comfort in watching other people's videos and seeing their success. And I get upset when I see their failures, but when I see their failures